All right, good morning, everybody. We had a slight technical issue this morning that's just sometimes what happens on Mondays. So not every Monday morning goes as smooth as we would like it to go, but we're streaming now. We got everything worked out. We had a little bit of a glitch. So happy Monday morning to you. We are live streaming on Facebook, and also we have a podcast. I ran into somebody the other day that said that they listen to my podcast while they're driving. So thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I have a couple slight housekeeping things to do on my end to make sure that I can make sure I'm got everything up and running. So again, thank you all for joining us. Today is August 7th. I cannot believe we are already into August. I know there's a lot of parents out there probably looking forward to back to school shopping. Kids are getting ready to go back to school. It's the summer has flown by, but hopefully you got a couple more weeks of fun and you can enjoy the last month or so before Labor Day. So again, happy Monday morning. The mug of the day, I brought out this mug. It's from, if you can see it, there's a little bit of a glare, but it's from Forrest Gump. Those that enjoy the movie Forrest Gump, you'll know what the cup looks like. It's from Bubba Gump Shrimp Company. I thought it would be and honestly, it's a very, very fitting mug for this morning with our technical difficulties. If for those of you that are listening, it's the mug that when Forrest Gump is running and somebody throws him a t-shirt and he wipes his face and it's a smiley face. So it's a have a nice day mug. So hope and everybody has a great day. Today has a good week coming up. Next week is the State Fair in Springfield. You can find information online on all the lineups. I know that Sunday is Veterans Day at the State Fair. Unfortunately, I am unable to make it that day, but I hope that everybody has a chance, or if you are thinking about what to do next week, have a chance to look at the State Fair, maybe go down to Springfield, enjoy everything that the State Fair has to offer. What is going on in Springfield? State Fair next week. What's going on in the Illinois House is, again, we are having committees. We have committees throughout the summer. I have a committee with regards to pensions on the 9th, August 9th, which is coming up, so that we can continue to talk about the serious situation with regards to our pensions and finding a solution that is good for taxpayers and good for the people that work for the state of Illinois and our first responders. Also, there's a House Insurance and Appropriations Public Safety Committee. They're holding subject matters next week on August 14th. So definitely there are still work going on. I've talked about this before, and you will hear it again and again. The Commission on Governmental Forecasting and Accountability. They come out with a report every single month, and their July report shows great news for Illinois economy. Great news. So let me say this again, great news. Things are looking up in Illinois. I know there's a lot of naysayers still out there, unfortunately, but there's some great news going on with the state of Illinois. So we have to make sure that while we focus on some of the negatives way in the past, we also need to focus on the positives now. Got to be positive. So job numbers are up, tax collections are up, the risk of a recession is reduced, our base revenues for the state has increased. And there's also some information with regards to utility taxes and that information in the COGFA July report. We also want to wish Senator Patricia Van Pelt the best in her retirement. She has resigned. We've talked about this before. There's been several groups that have resigned and or not groups, individuals that have resigned, and the process is an appointment process until the next election. So there's going to be a meeting and appointment process, and individuals submit their names if they want to be considered by appointing. Other than that, the governor has signed 503 bills, and he actually vetoed one bill, Senate Bill 1515. 63 bills remain on the governor's desk. So some of the bills that he signed this week, we established a Grandparents Raising Grandchildren pilot program in Will County, Freelance Worker Protection Act, Public Health Data Act, Affordable Insulin Act, school districts to offer full-day kindergarten, access to SNAP programs for college students, additional protections and rights afforded to temporary workers, expands resources for food bank systems across the state, creates a private right of action for those subject to doxing, expands leave for those donating organs, creates an generative AI and natural language processing task force in DOIT, the Department of Information Technology. We also created a 3-year outdoor sports license, required reporting for workplace demographic, changes processes of notifying and remedying harassment in schools, requires the Illinois State Board of Education to develop an index, expands who can serve as a home service provider. We give protections of students wishing to wear cultural, religious, or ethnic accessories at graduation ceremonies. We required universities to make emergency contraceptive available via kiosk. We did do election law changes. We did provide changes to assist parents facing the loss of a child due to suicide or homicide. Those are a couple bills that actually got signed by the governor. There was a couple more bills that got signed by the governor. One, I think is something that we've been talking a lot on in the state level, and something that I think is so very important. But looking at our history and our Native Americans in Illinois, so definitely that's something that is really important. Our Native Americans in Illinois. So Governor Pritzker signed 3 bills on Friday that offers increased protections for Native and Indigenous Illinois. So House Bill 3413, which is the Human Remains Protection Act. So this establishes procedures for encountering human remains or grave sites and returning the remains to Native American nations. So this is something of repatriation. We are working really hard with regards to doing the right thing. So what that bill does is it streamlines and concentrates efforts to return known or newly discovered Native American remains and cultural artifacts to their nation of origin. So many Native remains and artifacts remain in museums across the country, and the act that we passed amends the existing Human Remains Protection Act to coordinate with the Illinois State Museum and federally recognized tribes with ties to Illinois to determine tribal identity of the remains and return them for appropriate burial. We also put in there that we create a cemetery for remains that are unable to be identified or unable to be returned. So Illinois currently has the second largest collection of unrepatriated remains in the United States. And so I think it's wonderful. The Illinois State Museum has committed to the largest repatriation effort in the state's history. So definitely this law is effective immediately, and I think it's the right thing to do. Also, we signed Senate Bill 1446, which prohibits schools from banning students from wearing cultural regalia as graduation attire. I mentioned that just recently in my list. So Illinois students can wear accessories that reflect cultural, religious, or ethnic heritage at graduation ceremonies. So the bill was proposed following an incident where Nimke Curley, an Illinois high school senior, was forced to sit out of his graduation ceremony after refusing to remove traditional Native regalia. So this act protects not only Native Americans and indigenous cultural attire, but anything worn that is associated with the student's protected characteristic as laid out under the Human Rights Act. And that bill is also effective immediately. And then finally, House Bill 1633 mandates instruction on Native American history in public schools. It adds Native American history to the list of required curricula for public schools in Illinois. it specifically lays out that this law includes teaching about the genocide and forced resettlement of Native Americans by settlers, along with the history of tribes in the Midwest and the nationwide. And then Governor Pritzker previously signed laws mandating instruction in Asian American history and LGBTQ plus history in Illinois schools as well. So we are working very hard with regards to doing the right thing, and not only expanding those protections for our Native Americans, and we're passing bills to do that, but just overall doing the right thing in Illinois, which I think is something that a lot of people should be proud of. Another bill that we talked about that the governor signed last week is establishing the Illinois Farm to Food Bank program. So what this does is it expands resources for food bank systems across the state while supporting local farmers, which I think is a win-win. It creates, mechanisms for acquiring and distributing fresh fruit, vegetables, meat, poultry, dairy, and eggs to organizations providing free food for those in need. And it's a huge help for individuals. There's a lot of individuals that are struggling. It initially was a pilot in 2021 with grant funding from the USDA. It's been made permanent through the bill. So Illinois farmers can have their produce go directly to Illinois who are struggling with food insecurity. And as we know, getting fresh food and vegetables is so important. So the food is acquired through the program. It must be from an Illinois producer, and it must meet market grade quality and consumption levels, of course. But it also, the food going to the program is excess food that would have been wasted without food banks as an outlet. So again, this is a win-win, and it's going to help out so many individuals with increasing the availability of healthy food with connecting food banks. So the bill also creates a farm to food bank advisory council to support and advise the work of the program and establish building relationships with agricultural producers. So that is another great bill that we are passing. I know that sometimes individuals don't quite understand the impact of some of the bills that we pass. And this is a huge impact to everyday life. We also talked about the governor signed the bill that looks at establishing full day kindergarten. So that was House Bill 2396. And so that requires each school board to establish a kindergarten program with full day attendance beginning with the 2027-2028 school year. So under the bill, every district must establish a half-day program that is developmentally appropriate and provides opportunities for play-based learning. So full-day kindergarten is an essential step towards getting young Illinoisans off to the best possible start in their education. And so what this bill does is also look at establishing full-day kindergarten as well, from smart schools to school funding to early childhood in education. Illinois is really putting a lot of effort into helping our kids. So House Bill 2396 establishes full-day kindergarten task force to conduct a statewide audit to perform the planning and implementation of statewide full-day kindergarten programs. So they're going to be appointed, and then we will make sure that our kids are getting the kindergarten and that foundation of education that they need to succeed in life. So that is really a wonderful thing as well. Also, the governor passed a series of bills that helps our veterans. Some of these are mine that I worked on. And so the governor signed a series of bills that expands supports for our veterans, those on active duty, and our military families. So the governor signed 5 bills last week that does a lot of things for our military veterans. They weave together a comprehensive safety net to protect and really support the veterans with some of the complexities that everyday people don't always understand or can recognize. If you're in the military, you can understand that these things are so important. So what was in state law was a state charter act for veteran service organizations. However, we did not have any definition of what it was for a veteran service organization state charter. And this is important because VFWs and those organizations that are serving the veteran community are allowed to provide delegates to the Veterans Assistance Commissions on the county level. So we had the state charter in law, but we had no definition of what constitutes a state charter. And the state charter organizations would be able to provide delegates as well to the Veterans Assistance Commissions in their county. So this is a law that was needed. It lays out specific requirements for organizations to meet in order to be considered state chartered veteran service organizations. So it includes that the organization must be formed by and for veterans, with the majority of the board members who are veterans, alongside other qualifications. They're going to be under the purview of the Attorney Generals. That was a bill that I also helped pass. House Bill 3103 was another bill that I passed. It eases the process of obtaining a civil no contact order of protection for victims and survivors of military sexual assault. So if you recall, if you've been listening quite a bit, we last year passed Senate Bill 257, which allowed military protective orders to be used as a basis for ensuring that military sexual assault victims were able to get orders of protections, no stalking orders, and gave local law enforcement the ability of that military protection order. So what that did was, if there's something happened on base, then that individual can then take that military protective order, which technically was only good for on base, take it into the civilian courts, and it would transfer over so that victims had total protection. What this act does, 3103, it expands on those efforts, and it really makes it airtight so that victims and survivors of military sexual assault have access to all the necessary resources for that protection. And actually, the United States Department of Defense has cited Illinois' work as the model for the nation. So this legislation that I was honored to pass in last year, SB 257, and this year, House Bill 3103, is the model of which the Department of Defense is urging other states to look at and to implement within their states to help victims of military sexual violence and assault. So again, Illinois is paving the way and really, truly setting the example for the whole nation, which is very exciting. We also had House Bill 3295. So House Bill 3295 looks at requiring a military liaison for the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation to notify service members' spouses of federal assistance programs and reimbursements of licensing fees when they apply to transfer. So this happens a lot when military individuals move from base to base, and their spouse has a license in another state, and then we want to support spouses and their employment. And so this bill works at creating a military liaison so that spouses can understand that and know all the things that are available to them. So military spouses can be reimbursed up to $1,000 for obtaining a professional license required when moving to a new state. And a lot of individuals don't know that, but that's federal law. And this also includes exam and registration fees. So again, we are helping to prioritize and aid military spouses as well as the active duty service members when they relocate. And this liaison will be able to help out. They'll be able to expedite certain application processes and really be a great service for our military spouses. We worked on House Bill 2856, amends the Vital Records Act by adding that death certificate for an individual who has a history of military service may be included or be amended to include whether or not the military service related injury contributed to the cause of death. So this is really a data-driven box on the death certificate. We get a lot of data from death certificates, and you may not know this, but one of the things that we worked at to try to get the data is the death certificate didn't state back a couple of years ago, didn't state whether the individual who had passed away was a veteran or not. And that's important data to have. And then we clarified it last year or so to include if the cause of death was self-inflicted, if it was a suicide, so that we can start looking at the data correlating through this death certificate. So now we're going one more step further to see if the military service related injury contributed to the cause of death. So having that classification gives us the data we need to look into that, but it also expedites the access of benefits for a spouse or dependents of the deceased as well. So they get the benefits that they deceased. So it's a win-win. Again, it's a bill that is here to help individual people. That's what the legislation that we pass goes and helps individuals. And I can't stress enough that some of these bills are really profound and they really will help a lot of individuals. Finally, we passed Senate Bill 1072, which designates the Honor and Remember flag as a specific symbol to acknowledge American service men and women who lost their lives in the line of duty. So this flag was created by the father of Corporal George Tony Lutz II, who was killed in action while on patrol in Fallujah in Iraq. And so what the bill does is it states that public entities would then be required to purchase the flag, which costs about $55 each, and recognize this flag as really a flag that's a powerful and moving symbol for the loved ones of servicemen and women who gave the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our nation. So this is something that really, truly fills a hole and is recognizing that this flag, what it means, it's such a small gesture, but it's the least we can do is to ensure that we always remember and honor the sacrifices that all our fallen heroes have made in order to preserve our liberty and our country. So those are, again, bills that were signed that we are that should be highlighted, that along with some of the other ones, but we're just keeping on working and keeping on really doing what we need to do, which is to help people and to and make sure that we do what we have to do for the people. And a lot of these bills, if you listen, a lot of these bills come from individuals in the community. So we do have a community driven process, which is through your local representatives like myself and senators that definitely help out. So good morning to everybody that's tuned in, Bonnie and Gay and Audie. And I have some dogs on the couch. I know I have the dogs today. So definitely, and Audie says, thanks for helping. I know I try to help anybody that calls my office, anybody I run into, especially veterans and veterans families, regardless if they live in my area or not. I will try to connect you with the representative or the individuals in your area as well, if they're farther away than I am. But that's just what I think is the right thing to do, is to try to help a lot of individuals in our communities. So also I'm not going to read off everybody that got appointed, but the governor is currently making appointments to boards and commissions. Boards, we have a lot of boards and commissions. Illinois.gov has a whole listing of them, and they routinely need to be appointed with regards to that. Also, we have a committee called JCAR. I've mentioned this before in the past, the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules. So what we do in the legislative system is we pass laws, and then the laws have to take effect. And so the departments look at the laws and create rules in the military, SOPs, standard operating procedures, rules to follow to ensure that the laws are followed out the way that's intended. In addition to that, because the state is driven by laws and rules, there could be what we have emergency rules. So if there's something that needs to be changed or adjusted, the department will come before JCAR, the Joint Committee of Administrative Rules, and present rules for approval with regards to these emergency situations that would pop up that don't quite fit in with certain pieces of legislation, or there's some ambiguous language or things that they can't address in law, so they address it in rules. So our Joint Committee of Administrative Rules, they meet all during the summer as well. We have a lot of committees that meet, so don't think that, just because we're not in Springfield, we're not working. But the Joint Committee met, and they voted unanimously to suspend portions of daycare licensing emergency standards filed by DCFS. So the group had approved suspending rules prohibiting assistants from supervising certain classrooms during certain times of the day. Previous policies allowed daycare centers assistants to monitor rooms of children under 2 or up to 3 hours a day rather than 90 minutes. So the allowance was an emergency policy just during COVID-19. DCF wanted to continue this rule, but JCAR voted to suspend portions of the daycare licensing emergency standards. So there's more online. It's kind of a complicated process, but just I bring this up just so that you know that we are constantly looking and evaluating under the Joint Committee of Administrative Rules. I am not on that committee, but they do meet regularly to establish and to look into what the state is doing. And as you notice in the background, the dogs are, I have the dogs in my office today. And so they are, they're pretty being well behaved. Yeah, I'm talking about you. So they're looking my way right now. So the Auditor General, this is something that the Auditor General evaluates all the departments on a fiscal level. It's an audit, a level that makes sure that some of these departments are following the law, in addition to checks and balances with funding and the way things are being spent. So if you don't think there's oversight, there is. What we are looking at is an Auditor General report for the Illinois Department of Employment Security. So they had to distribute unemployment benefits under the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, the PUA. We talked about this way in the past. When we first started this Facebook Live, we talked about it as well. So this was the federal program to provide benefits for those ineligible for traditional unemployment benefits due to their employment status, normally those that were self-employed or independent contractors. This happens a lot. Federal programs run through the state and then it gets administered to the people. So the Auditor General estimated that between 2020 and 2033, IDES awarded more than $5.2 billion in fraudulent or excessive unemployment claims, $2 billion from regular unemployment and $3.2 billion from the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance programs. So again, this isn't really state funding, this is federal funding. But so what happened is that there was a lot of challenges dealing with the distributions. Throughout, we've had all sorts of subject matter hearings, and IDES came before our committees talking about the challenges that they had. They did get audited, and we are looking at this very serious situation on the state level and how it can be rectified. And again, working with the federal government, working with the federal government with regards to how those things come about. Now, speaking of the federal government, we had in our areas last week, U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, and he was in East St. Louis on last week. And so this is why having a great relationship with the federal government is good for Illinois. We are having a very good working relationship with the federal government. So Metrolink is a transit agency that serves both sides of the Mississippi in the St. Louis area. And Metrolink will soon be getting $223 million from the federal government to replace aging rail cars and repair the damage from flooding. So U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg said that the first portion of the federal money, $27 million, will help repair damage sustained by last summer through the massive flooding that happened down there. And the remaining $196 million will fund 48 new light rail cars. So this is why it's so important to have good relationships with our federal counterparts. And we are also looking at a location of a new $13.6 million public safety center as well. And that is being built and is scheduled to complete by February in St. Clair County. So one of the things is that Illinois has a comprehensive plan that we can work with the federal government. We tend to call it shovel-ready projects so that the federal government knows exactly what we need and exactly the costs that we have. So we're also looking for the idea of complete streets. So complete streets is when we're looking at sidewalks, more space so that cars, bicycles, pedestrians, including wheelchair users, can coexist completely. That means the street is complete. So we're looking at that. And it seems like a new idea, but it also seems like it's a common sense idea. City planning doesn't always do that. So we are also looking at modeling for the nation, complete streets. So we are excited on how things can fit into the bigger city as a state for pedestrians, bicyclists, even those in wheelchairs. So that's some of the things that have been really truly coming on online. That's really excited. A couple other things in the judicial world. The appellate court now has a administrative committee. So the Supreme Court oversees the appellate courts, and the Supreme Court has created an appellate court administrative committee of the Supreme Court. So the committee is comprised of 7 appellate judges, is charged with studying and recommending methods to improve the process of appeals and enhancing educational programming for appellate judges. So that's coming online. In addition to that, there was a law that was passed that addressed deceptive practices that had been complained upon and brought to the General Assembly's attention with some pregnancy crisis centers that was challenged. That's our checks and balances. The General Assembly passes the laws, the judicial system reviews the laws, passes judgments on the laws, the governor signs the laws. That's our checks and balance system. It doesn't change. So there was a lawsuit filed, and the judge currently has put a pause on that law. Also, the appellate court is looking at a lawsuit over the Waukegan Casino. The First District Appellate Court sided with the Forest County Potawatomi community, which alleges officials didn't give them fair consideration in 2019 while considering casino operators, and revived a lawsuit challenging the process used to award the casino license. So that's again being reviewed in the judicial process. And then today, Monday, August 7th, is the federal trial of Tim Mapes. He's the former chief of staff of Speaker Madigan, and he is charged with perjury related to testimony given before a federal grand jury. So that is things, holding individuals accountable is in the judicial system as well. So if you had Medicaid benefits, transitioning a little bit to some of the functions of governments, if you had Medicaid benefits, you might lose your eligibility because during COVID, annual renewal processes were halted by the federal government. So recipients used to be required to renew coverage every year to prove that they qualified. That was halted during COVID. It has now restarted, and it's looking like around 47,000 Illinois residents may have lost Medicaid health insurance coverage during this time of determining eligibility. Might lose some more. So there were letters and information sent out to Medicaid recipients. You had to verify your information. You have to verify things like income and status. If you did not do that, or if you need some help with that, please let my office know. We can try to help you out. If you are eligible for Medicaid and through some situations you were now not renewed or did not go through the process. The Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity launched a Black Business Month campaign to celebrate and support Black-owned businesses and entrepreneurs. It's a month-long campaign that includes webinars highlighting community leaders, organizations, and business enterprises throughout the state. Stops at the statewide Black Business Survey Roadshow. It's inviting all Illinoisans to shop Black-owned business Saturday, as well as company highlights for social media. Continuing with DCO, the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, we do a community development block grant program for public infrastructure and housing. And so those recipients, you have to apply for this, and they are announcing the recipients. A total of $56.9 million will be awarded to 54 projects. They're supporting housing rehabilitation projects, enable communities with non-metropolitan areas to make critical repairs to water, sewer, and drainage infrastructure. This helps with the quality of life. Now, Community Development Block Grant is also in collaboration with the federal government. And so these are funds that the programs in the state comes from federal money, comes from state money. Sometimes it's a combination of both. Then DCFS is awarding college scholarships. So we passed a law, and it's a pretty straightforward law. It's the DCFS children that are under the care of the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services. Because they are under the state care, the state should do all we can to help them through college as well. If there are children and their parents, I know many parents that help their children through college, and the state should help state children that are in the foster care system get scholarships so they can go to college. So DCFS awarded scholarships to a record 259 college-bound current and former youth in care, the most the agency has ever awarded in its history. So the scholarship program, again, is available to youth who have an open DCFS case, whose cases were closed through adoption, guardianship, or aged out of the care at 18 or older. They are eligible to receive up to 5 consecutive years of tuition and academic fee waivers and be used at participating Illinois state community colleges and public universities. They also get a monthly grant of $1,500 to offset other expenses. So that is really, again, it helps people and it changes people's lives. And that is what we are here, and that is what we're really truly focusing on. Home buyer assistance program. So the Illinois Housing Development Authority is reopening the home ownership program designed to help, families and underrepresented communities of colors buy their homes. We have found that stability and housing stability is really important, and a home ownership is huge. I mean, it's just huge. And when we're looking at families and we're looking at individuals, and again, I said it before, stability. So those programs are coming online as well. And then what we are looking at, I know this is interesting, but we do have Illinois Conservation Police. And so we have police officers that are here in our communities, but we also have Illinois Conservation Police that most people might not know that we have in the state of Illinois. So our Illinois Conservation Police it's what they say. They're with regards to the environment and making sure that our natural resources and those things are protected. So they concluded an extensive investigation into the poaching of more than 20 wild turkeys by out-of-state hunters in the Alton-Wood River area in Madison County. The alleged poaching of more than 20 wild turkeys. Also 3 cotton-tailed rabbits were poached from a vehicle with a suppressed rifle. 7 people were arrested in conjunction with the investigation. A total of 63 misdemeanor charges were followed against them. So that is a little bit of the role of our conservation police. They do a lot, but just wanted to give you that little tidbit of information with regards to the conservation police. Also, if you have not gone on to icash.illinoistreasurer.gov, you look for unclaimed property. I've mentioned this before in the past, bears repeating. In July, the Treasurer's Office responded to 12,554 claims for unclaimed property, returning nearly $11.5 million in cash and interest and almost $45,000 in stocks to average everyday people. So check out icash.illinoistreasurer.gov. We had also talked about the facilities, the Secretary of State facilities talked about that as well. They are changing their hours. So all driver's license facilities will be from 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. and only 16 facilities will offer Saturday hours, 6 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Additionally, they are now operating on appointments only. We want to give congratulations to our former state rep, David Welter. He has been appointed by the governor to the Executive Ethics Commission. In addition to that, the governor has also appointed Charles Wright as the IDHS Inspector General. So the Inspector General of the Illinois Department of Services, the Office of the Inspector General is where he currently serves. And so then he's also previously worked as the Assistant Inspector General for the City of Chicago and as Deputy Attorney General with the state of New Jersey. So congratulations to them. Finally, we round this up with some fun tidbit facts. Illinois is number 3 for beer. So Illinois ranks as the 3rd best state for Illinois beer lovers, according to a recent survey. So the survey utilized 3 combined data points to develop a ranking of the 50 states, and Illinois ranked on this state. So Illinois beer has won awards before at the 2022 Beer World Cup. Moon Rocks from the Mickey Finn's Brewery in Libertyville won a silver medal in the Session Indian Pale Ale category. I already talked about the state fair. So the state fair is beginning. So definitely it has lots to do. Fabulous lineup of entertainment. And we will conclude on those notes. So thank you so much for everybody joining in. I apologize. We had some computer issues. It's, that's just what happens in the way that we are operating these days. Sometimes we have some computer issues, and sometimes we are things go quite smoothly. So definitely really appreciate everybody tuning in. If you need anything, the weather has been pretty nice. But again, if you need anything, my office is here to help. And for those that are listening on the podcast, thank you for listening. Again, we are still working throughout the summer. If there is issues or legislation that you believe we need to look at on the state level, we can certainly do that as well. So with that, have a wonderful Monday. Look and make sure that you are tuned in through our emails. We send out email blasts. I do want to remind folks that this Friday is the American Legion meeting. I go every month. It's in their new headquarters, 1649 Montgomery Road. And also save the date, September 21st is the American Legion golf outing, and I will be participating in that as well. So those are information. Plus we have our Kid Expo coming up and a lot of other information. So if you are not on our email list, I suggest you to get on our email list. Information is on our website, ildistrict84.com. So with that, although COVID is low, there are still cases of COVID, so be careful out there. I hope everybody enjoyed Lollapalooza over the weekend, and I will be back to you next Monday. So take care, everybody. Have a wonderful day.